In the storm, you're also our political reporter, so I'm going to ask you a political question. We saw the governor last year with Irene out in the northern part of the state, in upstate New York, and he was definitely with people. This time, I have seen him take more questions from reporters about Hurricane Sandy than all the other questions he's taken publicly from reporters, I think, since he began as governor. Would you agree with that assessment?
Well, Bill, I think you know, and the cell service down here is kind of sketchy, so I'm not hearing all of your question, but I think you were asking about, we're hearing a lot more from Governor Cuomo than we have in the past. I think those of us who have covered Governor Cuomo since he's been governor and attorney general, he's kind of well known that he doesn't talk a lot. He doesn't do interviews. He does question and answer sessions periodically, but we've seen him all over the place. And he was talking with all of the reporters from across the country, national reporters also from all of the networks were down talking with him just a few minutes ago. So, yeah, we are seeing a much more talkative governor. Of course, this all goes to the talk of whether he might possibly be a presidential candidate in 2016. Of course, none of that kind of talk came up today because I think the concentration is on his big job ahead, which is getting the city and the state back up and running.
I was just talking about that he was very public in this. He's certainly out there, no question. Dave, can I ask your camera person? I don't know who it is, and I apologize. If we could just get a close-up shot of that water behind you, because it's just so dramatic.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Doreen, if you can, go ahead and show the water again. This is the Battery Tunnel, and the water there about 10 feet deep, I'd say. As you can see, the sign says it's 12 feet 8 inches is the clearance, and it's probably a little bit below that. So I'd say it's probably about 10, maybe 9.5, 10 feet deep right now. So that is the situation right there.
Thousands of cars use that each way every day, the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, to get between the battery of Lower Manhattan and Brooklyn, the borough of Brooklyn.
Actually, Bill, just to make sure, just a minor correction there. This is not the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel that you're seeing here. This is just the battery.
Oh, the battery. Okay, you're right.
It's a small connection. You know, it goes around the very bottom of Lower Manhattan and connects up to the FDR.
Know exactly where it is. Yeah.
I didn't even know the name of it this morning when I came down here. I just call it the FDR connection. But the
Battery
folks
Tunnel
here said that is the Battery Tunnel.
All right, well, tens of thousands of people use that as well, so that's all clogged up. Could take days, as Dave said. Governor Cuomo estimated it could take days. All right, Dave Evans, our political reporter, and today and last night, Hurricane Sandy reporter out there in Lower Manhattan for us. David, thank you very much.
Okay, now let's check back in with Lee Goldberg to find out just really about this storm. The storm is now over, but, you know, what are we expecting as the hours progress? Because rescues are still underway. They're still trying to take advantage of daylight, but you know, as we saw from I think Sarah Wallace's live shot, saying people are afraid of you know, what's going to happen later tonight.
Listen, we're still in the clutches of Sandy. There's no doubt about it. It's going to take a few days to get out of it. Certainly the brunt of the storm is long gone, but at the same time, I mean, we still have the problem where we have water that has nowhere to go. I mean, this water that has come in, even though we're forecasting some minor tidal flooding that's going to come in this evening in the low-lying areas, in the tunnel that you just saw, it either has to be pumped out or it's just going to slowly recede. Well, more on that in a moment. We're getting pictures from all over the area with trees down. This is from Livingston, New Jersey. Trees all over the place. And look at Howard Beach, Queens, with water inundating that area as well. So what's happened is that, you know, a lot of the areas here, especially, you know, we looked at Little Ferry and the Hackensack River, is that it's all been tidal surge flooding. It has not been rainfall that has flooded these areas. So the water that has come in through New York Harbor and up through New York Bay, I mean, went right into the Hackensack and all these local rivers here, and even has forced some of the tidal gauges to go up on the Hudson, all the way through Poughkeepsie and into the Catskills. And, you know, we're looking at a graph here, and you can see sort of the spike there on the Hackensack as it came in during the tide. It's just remarkable to see that happen as the water's really been pushed in. Meanwhile, this is now the west side of Manhattan. This is the Lincoln Center area right here. A lot of people walking around, a lot of tourists walking around the area. A few more things open today, and then folks are watching Eyewitness News and getting their latest information on the storm. And you see the leaves weren't moving too much there. The winds are gusting up to 30 at times, but the wind gusts haven't been as bad, definitely below the 50-mile-per-hour threshold. And then you see our temperatures have been in the 50s. So that's kind of what you're going to get here over the next several days. Clouds, couple of breaks, little gusty shower, and temperatures generally in the 50s. I think it's remarkable to look at this map and see how Sandy has just changed the orientation of a typical temperature structure in the Northeast, because the center itself is not too far from Pittsburgh, maybe just to the east. So you've got all this wind coming in from the south on this side of the storm, pushing places in the mountains in New Hampshire and Vermont into the mid and upper 60s, yet you see the mountains of Virginia and then down towards some of the lower elevations here have been in the 40s. And of course, we've reported about 3 feet of snow here across parts of the West Virginia, so it's just remarkable. So the extremes with Sandy, the strongest hurricane landfall hurricane with respect to the 38 hurricane, the Long Island Express, the highest wind gust 96 miles an hour at Eaton's Neck, and then the storm surge 12.5 feet at Kings Point, but it was 9 feet or more at the Battery, and storm reports have just been remarkable, whether it's wind or water. It's really been all about the water with this storm. It is a huge statement to the power of water, and Amy Freeze has more on that because, Amy, you were saying that even as this water begins to recede, it's going to find a way into places, and we're dealing with this for a long term.
Absolutely. The headline, "Water Finds a Way," is something that we're going to see repeatedly time and time again. So even though right now we're not seeing any rain overhead, that doesn't mean that we're done with water issues. In fact, some of the video coming in is just incredible for us to see. I'm going to pull this down and put it into play here. What do I have to do, Lee, to put this into play? I just have to hit the unpause button. There we go. There you go. All right. Once you see the water like this, there are a couple of things that you should know. As we start to see waters recede, rivers they have gauges, and we can tell how much water is coming and going at times. But when you have flooding situations, sometimes water gets out of its banks, and even under dry skies, the water will find a way to get into trouble. As we start to see these sort of streets turn into rivers, you have to keep in mind that it doesn't take much to sweep you off your feet. Water coming into an area where there hasn't been any rain and you typically don't see water can catch you off guard. Just 6 inches can completely knock an adult off their feet. So the water can be powerful just as it's moving down the street. Second of all, vehicles can float in water like this. Just 18 inches of water will float a car in a moderate flow of water. So this type of action can create really unpredictable circumstances, water floating objects across the area. This is really a concern. And the other question mark here is water starts to go within its banks and it finds ways in different directions. At dark, people will be caught off guard. This is something that we saw repeatedly last night. Rivers that you can roads that you can typically travel on are turned into those rivers, and then you're caught off guard and you're not sure where to go. Always a reminder never to drive into water. It's something that we've seen repeatedly with people getting rescued. Another thing is you're trying to get to your things, your property, and you think, I can just make it through this small area of water, which I typically would walk over grass. You don't know what's underneath the water. So be very, very careful. Walking into dark water after a storm like this, many objects in places that you think you know are moved into different directions. So finally, before I wrap here and give back to Lee, I also want to show you what's happened with the system as it's moved into West Virginia. It's been just incredible to look at the reports. These numbers coming in, 17 different reporting stations in West Virginia with more than a foot of snowfall. So this right now is showing exactly what Sandy did going over some of the ski resorts. Of course, an early season snow doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's been just incredible to see the power of this storm and what it can produce in such a short amount of time. Since it left here with a major storm surge, it has gone on to produce a foot of snow in many locations across West Virginia. Pretty incredible to see the moisture within this storm, Lee. Just a massive system. Yeah, I got a report of 34 inches out toward West Virginia as well, which is remarkable. And they make a great point, Amy, because there's lots of thoughts to happen in the wake of it, because people are going to be thinking, okay, well, the storm's over. I can start to go out. I can let the kids go out and play in the backyard. Keep in mind what you have in terms of footwear going forward. This water is going to carry debris in places you don't expect it to be. So just be aware not only below, but obviously above when you're walking around. Trees are still going to be compromised. There'll still be some branches around them with some gusty winds in a shower. Some small limbs can still come down. So just be aware of all of your surroundings going forward, because, you know, not only has our infrastructure been compromised, but everything around us has. So just be aware of that as you're going through, and watch out. Also, I mean, just walking across the street, things are slippery. The leaves are around, and they've been, of course, blown off around. So even now that a lot of the rain has stopped, driving's going to be a little tricky. So just take it slow around that corner, maybe normally than you usually would. Now, here's just a complete loop as Sandy came ashore, and there it was sitting there, and I mean, you know, always in weather history, I mean, we've seen the hurricanes come up here this time of year, and generally the weather patterns, because the jet stream is coming more west to east, would tend to shove or deflect it offshore. But in this very rare pattern, we had a jet stream pattern that scooped it up and made it turn in a sharp, abrupt manner
toward the New Jersey coastline. And you can see, even though you see the storm's over, I mean, we're in more of a sweet spot here where we're in a quiet zone where there aren't as many showers. It's actually a little steadier over eastern Pennsylvania. The storm itself is just to the east of Pittsburgh here. So there's the corridor where there are just a couple of showers from time to time, but we'll still be in and out of gusty showers because this storm is going to be tracking up slowly across western New York State and into Canada. There was that landfall track as it hovered near Cape May and then took another sharp turn. Even at the last second, it did a little bit of a shimmy and went toward Atlantic City. And notice this is wave heights where you see the bright reds. Those are 40-footers. We got about 20, 25-footers crashing against the coastline. The beach erosion, wait till you see some of the pictures around some of our beaches that don't exist anymore. And you can really see the push into New York Harbor there. So here's a futurecast that'll show the next couple of days at how Sandy will just slowly trudge through western Pennsylvania and New York State and into Canada. We're just sort of in a spiral band of a couple of showers from time to time, a little bit of brightening and also gusty wind. This is even into Thursday. So this whole thing finally lifts north into northern New England and Canada by late week, and that's when we can see a little bit more sunshine. Gusty showers at times today. Wind isn't much of a factor going forward as we go into Thursday and even Friday, just a little breezy. Basically what you see is what you get. 50s by day and low and mid 40s by night. So it's mostly cloudy, it's breezy. There are some showers around tonight at 51. 55 tomorrow, it's breezy, again a passing shower. And then on your 7-day AccuWeather forecast, we'll highlight a couple of days here as we go through the next 3 days pretty similar. More clouds and sun, a passing shower. By Saturday, I think it's a little breezy, about 52, almost a little windy. And then as we go into Sunday, sun and cirrus about 53. That just means some high clouds around. So, they're still waiting on a decision for the marathon. If that's the case, the weather would be okay, but there's a lot of work to be done to clean up if that's going to happen. Guys, back to you for now.
A lot of work to be done.
Thank you, Lee.
And I loved Amy Freese's suggestion, be careful when you walk. Yours too, Lee.